Hey everybody, I don't know if you saw my last video, but I shared a list of things that I wished I knew about pursuing an aviation career, and I didn't know what questions to ask before I got in. I feel like if I had known these things, I would have had a much better idea of what I was getting myself into and a much clearer picture of what to do and how to do it. So if you didn't see that video, I think I can put a link right here. If you have seen that video already, this is a follow-up to that, and one of the greatest things that flying and growing up within hang gliding has given me are these connections to incredible people. Something about flying really brings out people with a passion for living and just great people all around. So I kind of did a phone a friend. I was thinking about a friend of mine who is now a captain at a major airline, and I was thinking, if these are things that I wished that I knew, he's so much further ahead in the aviation career than I am. I wonder what he wished he knew. So he's agreed to jump on a video call, run through what he wished he knew before getting started, or things that he thinks are super important to people that are starting on this path. Maybe he did a better job of vetting the career and asking questions than I did, but some really valuable tips that he got along the way. So let's jump right in. So, Mr. Barnwell, do you know why I've asked you here today?
Oh my gosh, I'm leaving.
Yeah. Dude, how have you been?
Been pretty good, man. Like really good lately. Like since the upgrade, it's like life is freaking awesome.
Awesome. So, timed this well.
Yeah, I think
If I
so.
asked
I
you
mean,
before the upgrade, you might have been like, not so worth it. I don't know.
nah, it's always been great. Yeah, it's been good. Like man, ever since I started my first lesson, it's been
Yeah.
like I've known it's the right thing to do for me. Because
I feel like you are like the success story of people that started in hang gliding and then moved to professional aviation. Like we know a bunch of people that fly hang gliders and fly professionally, but a lot of
yeah,
them started flying professionally and then got into hang gliding.
yeah.
And there's only a couple people I can think of that went the other way. But I'll try to keep it quick and not take up a ton of your time here. Yeah, so you are Cory Barnwell. You have already a great pilot name before you started flying. Like makes me think of like barnstormers, like good World War One
Stormers, right?
biplanes and stuff, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
for people that don't know you, give me like a little background. Like what do you love about flying? What got you into it in the first place? Where'd you start? What's your story? Whatever you want to share.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I
It's
mean,
a
I
lot.
guess I started my aviation life back in the end of 2012. I was in a whole different career field. I was a computer programmer back then, um, and not really enjoying it that much. Trying to find a better, trying to find a way to enjoy life a little more. And I found did a little Google search and found searched hang gliding near me. And I was living in Nashville, and there
Okay.
was a Lookout Mountain Flight Park down there outside of Chattanooga.
Yeah.
So I just intended on doing a little like bucket list kind of thing, like check the
Right.
box, move on to the next
Right.
thing. But it just,
Just
hooked
go
me
fly
right
a
away.
kite for a day, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But man, it got me
Yeah.
so good. Like, I think I missed like maybe 4 weekends that first year. I was down there. It was like a 3 hour drive. I would drive down there every weekend. Some days after work, if the weather was good, I would just drive down and catch a quick flight and drive back. Like 6 hours of
Wow.
driving for like 20 minutes of flying, maybe.
Yeah.
But, like, that's what really started it all, And then,
Yeah. I
yeah,
remember, do you remember I think it was the first time we met, but do you remember the first time we met at
in
Ellenville?
Ellenville.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was just like flying my pulse. It was like I think it was kind of like a rough, turbulent day or something, and
Yeah.
it was just like I wanted to fly so bad. I think you were trying to like caution me, like,
I
yeah,
I really was. Yeah. Yeah. So like
I wasn't having it, man.
yeah, no, not at all. I'm like, my first impression was like this guy is a lunatic. Like he's just so hungry to fly. And it was like, I grew up in hang gliding and most of my flying was at Ellenville. A lot of it was. So like there was this new guy and I think you were still a hang two at that point, but like I saw the
Yeah.
pulse. Somebody was like, "Oh, there's this new guy visiting. He's living in his van
I
in the
think
land."
I was a hang three actually. I think I
Okay.
was a hang three. Yeah.
And they're like, he's living in his van down in the landing zone. He just kind of like showed up. And it was like, so I went and talked to you, and it was like, I was right smack in the middle of the day. I think it was spring. And it was like,
Yeah.
hey, I know this looks like a nice grassy place, but it gets pretty rough here. And it's going to be great later. Like all the experienced pilots are hanging out and chatting. And like, we're going to fly later. We're going to have a blast. And you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
all right, thanks for the advice. And like, I turn around and you launched. And I was like, okay. You're like, I'll just stay up for a while. And I was like, okay. And I think
Yeah.
you did. I think you flew for like 4 or 5 hours or something that day. Like you were just
Yeah.
hungry.
Blew
And
till
like,
the glass
yeah,
off for sure. Yeah.
yeah.
That
But you
was kind
did
of my
great. Like
MO.
that also stuck with me too. Cause like I didn't know you. And
Right.
something like I never know. I'm fine with people taking risks. Like I will not stand in somebody's way if they want to fly on a crazy day, if they understand that it's a crazy day and they want to that bad that that's worth the risk to them.
Yeah.
But when it's a newer pilot, I'm always like, I don't know if they understand what they're jumping into.
Yeah.
So it was like, because I didn't know you, I was like, I really think you should wait. Like I tried to be as clear as I could, but not tell you what to do. And then like two
Yeah.
seconds later you launched. I was like, see ya. But what I also remember, you did great. Like you had a great flight, you had a great landing that day. Like the landing is really where it bites you when it's rough. Like you can fly
Yeah.
around when it's bumpy and it's no big deal, but
That's the
that
big
stuck
thing.
with me
Yeah.
too. And I was like, okay, like he's pretty solid. I don't know about his decision making, but he's
Right.
solid. But
Yeah. I think I
you
had
did
a
it
bit
well.
of
Like you managed the risks well. Like I just didn't
yeah,
know you then. But like that was the first day that we met. And yeah,
that was how we met. Yeah. And
it
I
left
mean, I knew
it
who
left
you
an
were from your
impression.
videos, like Willard with Smokes was like, I still watch that video.
Oh man, I
I
still get
came from there.
messages and people are like, I got into hang gliding because of this video. And it's like, that's an interesting choice because that is so
Oh,
far from where you can go when you get into hang gliding. And so few people do it even once they're into hang gliding.
yeah.
But that, I
And
don't
I have
know.
no intention of going
There,
upside down in a hang glider, but
yeah,
I,
there are some
I,
videos that do that. Like Wolfie had that one launching off of a mountain into like a cloud bank in Switzerland or
yeah,
wherever he was.
Switzerland.
And like
Yep.
some videos just catch people.
Yeah, I think that yeah, you nailed it with that one. Just the freedom and the beauty. Like it was like golden hour. Like when you're
Yeah,
flying, just perfect. Like that's what hang gliding is. It's like you don't have to go upside down. That makes for
right.
a great video. But like that's what hang gliding is. That freedom and just doing what you want, enjoying nature. Working
Yeah.
with nature. Like
Yeah. So like from chasing hang gliding and like the sort of like the endless summer, if you use like a surfing reference, but like just
you know,
chasing flying days. How did you get to where you are now?
Man, so yeah, so like after that trip when I was living out of my van, that lasted, I intended on stopping when I reached a certain amount of money in my bank account. And I blew way past that. And like, I mean, I went into debt from that. Like I just was like, I did not want to stop flying.
Right.
But eventually, all good things come to an end. Yeah, I came back to, the working life and back to only flying on the weekends, and it just wasn't enough.
It's
And
even harder. Yeah.
it was even harder. And I was competing, I wanted to do these competitions, and those take a week minimum each one. And at the time there were 4 per year in the US. And I was just like, how am I going to get all like manage this,
Yeah.
and I was just very unsatisfied. In that lasted a couple years. In 2016, one of my it's kind of like a mentor to me, Terry Reynolds, retired United Airline pilot
Yeah.
and hang glider pilot, former national team member, went to the worlds and stuff. And he if you know Terry, you know how he is. He like pulled me aside at a competition one day. He was like, I think I was trying to set up or something. He's like, hey, I need to talk to you about something. And I was like, okay. And he just was like, you want to fly hang gliders more? You know I do. You want to have enough time. You want to make enough money to go and do all this stuff and like and fly hang gliders and compete and everything. You need to be an airline pilot. You need to be an airline pilot. This is what you need to do, and this is how you do it. And like, it's the best time I've ever seen in the industry, and blah, 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 blah. Like,
Yeah.
and then we talked
That
about it
sounds just
later.
like Terry too, like so matter of fact. Like this is
Yes.
what it is, and this is what you're gonna do.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and I needed that, I needed that.
Yeah.
It had never crossed my mind to pursue like flying planes, like as a
Right.
career. Like
Right.
people ask like, hey, are you ever going to get your, private pilot's license? And I was like, no, why would I spend so much money? I'm
Right.
already flying every day, like,
Right.
but the way he framed it, it really put it in a perspective that made sense to me. And we were able to talk about it some more, that evening. And then it turns out in the hang gliding world, there are quite a few pilots, and
Yeah.
so I was able to pick their brains and just talk to everybody I knew over the next 6 months to learn as much as I could. And I think that really helped me a lot, getting that perspective and getting as much advice as I could.
Yeah.
Kind of gave me, I was able to go in with my eyes open to like what this is going to be like and what am I going to, what do I need to do? And then I got super lucky with just the way the timing was. Jerry said it's the best time he'd ever seen, and he was right.
Yeah.
Just got really lucky. So September 2016 was my first lesson in an airplane.
Okay.
And then I got signed off on
2016.
my
Wow.
captain spot at my airline in December of last year.
Okay. So now you're at a major and you're a captain.
Yeah,
And man, to people on the outside, like
crazy.
I can appreciate the work, the sacrifice, like the determination that you put in to do that, especially in that amount of time. But to people on the outside, it was like a blink. Like it was like, oh yeah, like Cory's in flight school. And then it's like, oh, Cory's got this flying job, and it's Cory's upgraded to captain. It was like just
Yeah, and
wow. Like we all like I feel like everybody in hang gliding, anybody that knows you or has ever met you that was rooting for you, because like you're just such a nice guy. Like I
oh
don't mean to make you blush, but like you're just such a nice guy. Everybody, if they meet you once, they're rooting for you. And then like your climb through the ladder just was epic.
I saw it in the beginning as a means to an end. Now I see it as a lot more than that now that I've
Right.
been in it. But it was a means to an end in the beginning. I wanted to be able to have the time and money to
Right.
pursue competitive hang gliding.
Right.
And now that I've, just recently, I feel like I've reached that point, where I probably somebody with a different mindset could have, and I've been competing off and on, the whole time,
Right.
but I felt like I couldn't dedicate myself fully to it. And just recently is when I feel like, you know, this is the year I'm going to start ramping it back up. It's
Cool.
exciting.
Cool.
It's exciting.
So that runs through kind of like your story, like where you are now, where you started, how you got there. And I feel like that gives you quite a bit of credibility for this next question. And like this is the
Okay.
$1 million question. This is why we're doing this call. But before you started chasing aviation as a career, what do you wish you knew about it? Like now that you're in it, and you're not just in it, but like you're a captain at a major, like you have gone through almost all of it, right? You're where most people want to get someday. What do
Yeah,
you wish
that's
you
crazy.
knew
Yeah.
before you even started? Like what things have you learned about the career, the industry, flying professionally, like anything that you wish somebody told you that you didn't know already?
Yeah. I think that I thought a lot about that. And I think that, due to the amount of kind of research I did before I started, I think there's a whole list of things that people should know. If no one had told me, I don't know that I would have known to ask. Like one of
Right.
them was make sure you can get your first class medical before you
Yeah.
even start. Like because if your goal is to be, working an airline, you need that. And sometimes there's some hoops you got to jump through. or if there's some disqualifying things that just may make it impossible, so you
Yeah.
better find out. So I was told that. I was told, seniority is king, the way seniority works. One class date could be the difference between, a pilot who was hired in 1 year and a pilot who was hired 3 years down the road, because they froze hiring or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, um, so, I was told, go fast, 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 as fast as you can without putting your certificates at risk, like
Right.
don't fail a check right if you can avoid it, but don't go so
Don't
slow,
overtrain. Right.
don't overtrain. Yeah. And, so I went into it with that mindset and, just the mindset that it could take years. I was expecting 10 years before I even got to, I was hoping for 10 years to be at a major within 10 years. I wasn't even considering being a captain at a major.
Okay.
Just my goal was get to a major, hopefully within 10 years.
Right.
Um, but, and I got lucky, but like some of the things that I wish
You're
that I
calling
had,
it luck. I'm calling it hard work. Like, you
well,
can't control all the circumstances, but all the ones that you can control, you controlled them. Like,
thanks.
you're
Yeah.
not giving yourself enough credit.
Yeah, thanks. Well, Mike, one of the legends in the hang gliding world, Mike Barber, he used to tell me, you have to have the skill to take advantage of the luck.
Yeah.
You know, so you need luck, but you got to prepare for it in order to take
Yeah.
advantage. So
Yeah.
yeah, some of the other things that are kind of not so much aviation related that
Yeah.
I've been learning lately, and I wish I'd have known better, was stuff more about like how to stay healthy on the road. Like you're traveling all the time, you're in
Yeah.
hotels, and I did not have a good foundation in that. I kind of knew how to. Yeah, I knew what foods would make me fat and what foods wouldn't, but I didn't really care.
Right.
And
Right. Well, you were
it
you were
just
super active when you're hang gliding all the time,
exactly,
but
yeah.
professional flying is a lot of sitting and
It's a lot of
airports and like
sitting,
running. You don't have a lot of time.
airports.
Yeah.
You may not have a microwave convenient. If you're trying to bring food, you may not. It's really, and eating healthy at a restaurant is very expensive. You
Yeah.
know, so that is something I wish I'd have been a little more disciplined about and learned about, and I'm learning about that now.
Yeah.
The other thing is the financial aspect of it, because it's very expensive in the beginning,
Yeah.
but possibly very lucrative towards the end. And if you don't set yourself up with solid financial habits in the beginning, I've learned that uh, like poor financial habits will match whatever income you make.
Yeah.
Like however
It's
big your
true.
income is, your poor habits will match that.
Yeah.
So, and also your good habits will too. So if you can start, as one of the things I did have a decent foundation in that. I kind of had a light bulb moment when I was leaving, like changing my old career, where I was like, I've done this, you know, worked in my degree for 6 years, minus 6 months where I was living out of a van. And I still am in the position where I have to go into debt in order to change careers. And
Yeah.
there's no reason for that. I don't have kids. Didn't have a big house loan. Like I didn't have credit card debt. I was debt free actually at the time.
Right.
You know, but I didn't have any money saved. I was spending it all. And that kind of was a light bulb moment for me of like, all right, I'm not going to let that happen again. I know it's going to be lower income for a while, and then maybe match the income I used to currently, and then probably get a lot more than that later. But I want to establish good habits right now, like good financial habits, and I think that's it's important. I think
Yeah.
that's really important actually. You fly with a lot of guys that don't have those good habits, and they feel that they're not making enough money, and I know how much money they make, and they are making
Right.
like that. It's really
Right.
unbelievable. So
There's enough pie if you slice it right.
for sure, yeah. Well, one of my friends says pilots don't have an income problem, or pilots don't have they don't have an income problem. They have a spending problem, which is that
Yeah.
hits the nail on the head. Back to kind of some of the more like aviation type of stuff. Um, it can get really overwhelming thinking about the end goal. Like, the end goal is up here. and I'm way down here,
Yeah.
it just feels
So far
too
away.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't focus on that. It's one day at a time. Focus on your next lesson, your next certificate, that kind of thing. Like, just keep you have a one big goal, and then you just focus on the next step, like to
Yeah.
get to the next one. I think that really helps a lot. I think some of the people get discouraged, are looking too far ahead. And they're not focusing on what they need to do right now. Oh, another thing is, I didn't expect, and I think a lot of people probably, maybe some people don't have the same perspective I do, where I was kind of doing this as a means to an end, trying to escape what I felt like was a career that wasn't what I wanted, trying to get into something that would allow me to do what I wanted to do in life.
Yeah.
I didn't expect to have so much fun flying planes and getting paid for it.
Okay.
It's really fun.
Yeah,
I
because
find
a lot of
myself.
hang glider pilots are like, no, I don't want to be an airline pilot. This was me for, this is still me sometimes, but I'm like, I don't want to just sit in a plane and fly straight and like talk on the radio
Exactly.
and just do what I'm told by air traffic control. Like you're just a
Yeah.
remote control pilot. And then there are occasional situations where you have to actually think and pilot, but like it's
Yes.
all just rules and procedures and people are like that, that's work. And it's like, well, you get paid for that work.
Yeah.
But
And it's to
the
me,
people that I
it's
talk to that
fun.
are actually doing it, they're like, it doesn't suck. It's not just work. Like it's not just
Yeah.
that you get to look out the window. They're like, it it is still flying.
It's still flying. You're using, a skill. You're getting a great view. They always say that, but
Yeah.
that's true. Going cool places. For me, I love, finishing a flight, getting that landing in. Hopefully, it doesn't suck, and then everybody. I don't know. I feel like I did something for the day.
Like
I'm like, hey,
you're
I've done.
you're
I've
captain
accomplished
now. So if you bounce a landing and be like, ah, I let the first officer
it.
land today.
That
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
That the FO.
I have some people that are, some friends that are in the career, trying to get their career started right now, and they're in the training phase of it and everything. And when you're in the training phase, I really think that if you can put yourself in a situation where you can focus fully on the training,
Yeah.
then you should. Or if you can't, then try to reduce distractions as much as possible, because that's the most it's when you build your foundation of skill and knowledge, so you really need to, you're not just trying to like check the boxes and get your next certificate. You're that each phase builds upon the other and really helps you.
Right.
The better you learn it, the better the next certificate is going to be, and the better
Right.
pilot you're going to be for the rest of your
Yeah.
career.
I saw that when I was teaching. Like the people that were kind of put their job on the side and were just training as if it was their job, they were making connections a lot faster than people that were doing something else and like their mind was there and then they would go flying even if they
Yes.
flew a couple times a week. Like it didn't just mean they were flying once a week, but it's just
Yeah, sure.
hard when you have other stuff on your mind versus
Stuff.
when you're
Yeah.
flying all the time. Even when you're not flying, you're thinking about flying. It's like
Yeah.
it's hard to get it out unless you have other
Yeah.
stuff you have to do. But yeah,
100%.
not everybody has that opportunity. But if,
Yeah.
like you
But
said,
as much as you
if they
can,
can, right?
if they can, that's very helpful. And then I mean, not everyone wants to flight instruct, but if you're trying to get to the
Yeah,
airlines, I haven't found, unless you get really lucky, I think, I haven't really found any career any like path that will allow you to build flight time as quickly
yeah,
as flight instructing.
yeah,
But you have to be flexible too. Switched flight schools twice. I went to my third flight school before I found one that had enough students, that I was able to fly as much as I wanted to.
right.
I was doing 110 hours a month on average,
Wow.
not taking days off. I mean, I kind
Yeah,
of, you know, I kind of pushed it pretty hard at that phase,
yeah,
but I'm glad I did. I don't want to do that again, but I'm glad I
right,
did.
right. Yeah, it's work. It's
It's
definitely
work.
work.
Yeah, there's a lot of like really cool jobs available to lower time pilots that don't compensate with hours or money that much. And I wish I could have done them. Like I had an opportunity to fly caravans in the Grand Canyon, and
Yeah.
I I wanted to do that so bad. It would have been amazing. But they were telling me that the average flight flying per month was about 65 hours. And that didn't fit with my plan. I just
Right.
was like, that's going to cost me an extra year. I did the math, cost me an extra year before I get to 1500.
Right.
So it
And
wasn't worth it to me.
it's a year of poverty, essentially. And
Yeah, exactly.
then
It's a year
maybe
of
not living where you want to live. Like,
mhm,
so
not living
that's
where
one
you
of the
want to
things
live.
that I'm going to talk about when, I'm going to go through a couple of things I wish I knew. And one of them is like your willingness to, not willingness, but like sometimes the need to relocate. And
Yes.
once you get to a certain point, I know people can commute, but like looking at like where flight schools are hiring or where, the right flight school with the right setup that isn't just taking
Mhm.
advantage of the instructors or the students or both, or planes that are just
Yeah.
always down, or like there's all these different things. But finding the right spot, or there are those other flying jobs, like there's pipeline patrol and stuff, but like it, most of those jobs, it looks like you have to go to Texas for that. There's a lot
Yep.
of it in Texas. And if you don't want
Texas,
to live in
maybe.
Texas, it's
Dakota.
going to be really hard to find pipeline patrol jobs. So you
Yeah.
got to, know that you're going to flight instructor. Like,
Man, I mean, have you, well, I mean, this would comes down to the moving thing, which is a great point. I moved just to go to flight school because they
right.
offered me a cheaper loan to go in a different state. You
Yeah.
know, I moved to Kentucky for flight school, and then I moved to Texas for a job, and then I moved to Florida for a job, and then I moved different to another city in Florida for the job. And I chased it. But
Yeah.
but I had that option available to me. And
Yeah. Well,
super supportive girlfriend and everything, so it
I
helps.
think maybe you're not the only way to do it, but I think you're a great role model of how to do it.
Sure.
Like people that are just coming in or still thinking about it. Like I think you really showed a great way to do it.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I didn't really think about that because I knew I was just going to do whatever it took. So
Yeah.
yeah, but being able to move is a huge
Yeah.
benefit. But yeah, well, that's one thing. I went to ATP flight school and they delivered on what they said. They're fast and they're a fast track program that gets you CFI double IMEI, but they don't really, they don't sugarcoat it. Like it's up to you.
Yeah.
And the people that, the instructors are there, but they're there to fly you, and then you get some ground. But man, most of the studying is on you, and that's why I tell people like with ATP, like you got to go in with that mindset
Yeah.
of I'm going to do the work. You know, I'm going to make this happen no matter what. They're just going to make it easier for them.
Yeah. That was something that surprised me was how self-taught aviation is. With
Yeah,
like the school that I went to used an online Jepson course, but like whichever online course it is, but like you watch this online course, you read the books, then you come and you do the flying lesson, and like you're putting it all together in flight, and the instructor's there to kind of like guide you through some things, but
yeah,
you're really kind of like self-teaching.
yeah. I think so. I wonder if that's just because. Did you find that now also when you're instructing as well, or was it more just your experience when you were a student?
Um, I don't know. I think I'm different because I love teaching and like I had teaching experience. So like I
Yeah.
came to realize a big part of why that the whole system is what it is because flight instructors, whatever background they come from, they learn to fly, they become very proficient pilots, they get their commercial, they get their CFI, but the CFI training to get your CFI certificate, you're learning like the basics of how a person learns with very little actual experience teaching.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
then you're flying a plane with somebody, but it works partly because of the way the rest of aviation instruction has kind of become, which like it saves people a lot of time and money when they do self-teach and use the online course versus like doing ground with an instructor and like the dry erase board and like having somebody spoon feed it
Yes.
to you. So it saves a lot of time and money letting people do it on their own time as long as they actually do it. Because like if they show up unprepared, they end up flying and taking a whole lot longer and spending a whole lot more money, which flying is super expensive. So like you want to get through training efficiently, but it also creates an environment where the instructor doesn't need to be a phenomenal teacher to get the information across,
Yes.
because the online course gets the information across. And then if they have questions, like there's all these textbooks, there's Professor YouTube, like there's all of the stuff out there that you
Yeah.
can find the info before you're in a plane with an instructor who's kind of just like guiding you through it and
Yeah.
keeping you, hopefully keeping you safe or
I think
legal or
that's
both.
I think that's something that's really important to understand before you start your training too. It's like that's another, what I wish I would have known kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's like it's really the bulk of the studying is on you as the student.
yeah,
And if you're lucky, you luck out and get a great flight instructor. They, you know, they will, be able to probably give you some more of that teaching kind of like you would kind of expect in your mind. But like you said, yeah,
yeah,
most people when they start flight instructing are not, they're learning that kind of on the fly as well, like how to teach and what works best and that kind of thing. So it's
yeah, yeah. Like I saw all different types of instructors, and most of the people that I was working with were really good actually. But
too,
I
yeah.
saw people that if a student showed up unprepared and you asked like two qualifying questions before you actually get in the plane about what you're going to be doing today, like what this is the syllabus today, and
Yeah,
like they don't get it, they'd be like, okay, well, let's see how that goes. And they would still go get in the plane. Whereas I would be
yeah,
like, listen, we're going to have to take half an hour or like whatever, but we're going to have to cover this now. And your flight is going to be shorter, or maybe we're not even flying today, which sucks for you as a flight instructor if you're trying to build time, but
right.
it's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing
And
to do.
being a flight instructor puts you in weird positions like that. Like the whole reason you're there is not even for most people, it's not the pay, it's the time and the experience. And
Yeah,
then when you get somebody who's unprepared, do do you go flying around on their dollars when they're
right.
not set up to learn it, or do you take the time to set them up to learn it even if you don't end up flying on that lesson?
Yeah,
And
it can be
I
tough.
it's a
Some of the
tough
students
call.
have that mindset too of
Yeah.
like they don't value the training on the ground and they just want to get in the plane.
Yeah, like
And
one of the
that's
senior
tough to do.
instructors told me you should still go fly with them. Like they'll learn when they're not making progress. They'll learn through money. Like they'll start showing up prepared when they realize how long this is taking and how expensive it is. And
I don't know about
I was like,
that.
I just I don't feel good about that. Like I'm not at
Yeah,
peace with that. Are you telling me that's company policy, or are you
I've
cynically
experienced that
saying
as
you're
well
trying
as
to,
an
yeah,
instructor. Yeah, I've had that same thing, and I haven't seen that those students learn. They seem to
yeah.
have deep pockets and they just keep flying. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
I mean, some people are having fun. I saw a lot in hang gliding. Like some people would just have fun coming every weekend and they were happy hang gliding and like flying down the training hill, and like they didn't care that they weren't moving higher on the
right.
hill or to the next thing. Like they were getting out and flying and having like
Yeah, that's what they needed.
it's like I
Yeah,
wanted more for them, but they weren't really unhappy with where they were, or not enough unhappy to do something about it, to like
right.
make more
Yeah,
progress. And you really can't, as an instructor, do it for somebody. Like you can
no,
guide them, you can try to make it make sense, you can make these connections that maybe they're not getting, but you can't do the work for them. Like
true.
that's Maslow's hierarchy. Like they have to
Yeah,
have the desire to learn, or you can't teach them anything.
yeah, yeah, true. And that kind of reminds me of too. There's a little bit true from the opposite end of like, one of the things that as a student you could run into somebody who doesn't have a desire to teach.
Yeah,
As they only want the hours, and you have to realize that you as a student have the power to say, "I'm not going to. You're not my instructor anymore."
yeah,
I'm,
yeah.
I'm
You
going to
have to
build from
really
you.
be the advocate of your own training, and like
Yeah,
even if the school scheduled you with so and so, if you don't want to fly with so and so, you got to speak up, or else.
yeah. You're the one spending the
Yeah,
money,
yeah,
and it shouldn't be this way. You should be able to just
right,
go to a certain any flight instructor and have them teach you correctly. But even if they're a great flight instructor, maybe their style just doesn't match up with how you
Right.
learn.
Yeah.
So
Just the way people communicate sometimes. Like, yeah.
yeah, that's something that I think some students get stuck in where they're too shy to admit that they're unsatisfied with the level of instruction they're getting, or that it just doesn't isn't working out, and
Right.
they end up spending more money and wasting
Right.
time. It's
Right.
like if you
Hoping
have
it'll
that,
get better. Oh, next lesson will be better. Like,
yeah, it's like no, just make the change earlier. Especially if you're
right.
looking at this is
Yeah.
going to be my career. You need to be, you can't accept distractions and slowdowns.
Right.
You have to be disciplined about that in your life outside of the instructions, and you have to be disciplined, with who you accept as your instructor as well. It's like
Yeah.
you're paying them to provide you a service. So if the service level isn't satisfactory, you find somebody else.
Right.
I think it's important.
Right. And the service, like when you said disciplined, like the service that you're actually paying for. Because like it doesn't matter if he's a nice guy and it's fun hanging out with him while you fly a plane around. But if they're not helping you learn faster than you would learn on your own, they're not doing their job. Like that's what I see the job of a CFI as is like, yeah, you keep somebody safe and you're there to kind of like guide them. But if you're not helping them learn faster than they would learn on their own, what value are you really adding? Like then you're just a chaperone. You're not an
Yeah,
instructor.
definitely.
And that's,
That's a really good.
I have my
That's a
own
really good.
biases, but that's kind of how that was the bar I set for myself was like, I need to be helping these people progress like that. If I don't feel like I'm doing my part, I would come home and I'd be like, yeah, it was a crappy day. It was like, what happened? Well, nothing really. It just, that's the point. Nothing really happened. Like
Right.
we did steep turns and they didn't really get it. And then we did another set and they didn't really get it. And then like we talked about it. I demonstrated, like I tried to give them some nuggets to apply so that it would go differently the next time. And then they did it exactly the same again. And it's like
Yeah.
they're going home happy. They're like, this was cool. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm feeling defeated. I'm like,
You're
man,
unsatisfied.
what am I doing wrong?
I know. I know. That's like, yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
Well, kudos to you, man. I mean, I'm really proud of what you've accomplished as well, dude. I mean,
Oh,
and
thanks, Cory.
you even more like also just the ability to recognize like this isn't making me happy and it's not contributing to my,
Yeah.
you know,
It's been tough. Like there are definitely days where I miss the teaching. I miss flying, like because
yeah,
airplanes are much more accessible. Like you flying most days, and hang
yeah,
gliding, especially in the Northeast, is not most days. Like it's been really it was a bad summer for hang gliding here. There just weren't a ton
no,
of days,
sucks.
and some of the days I couldn't make it out. And like I miss flying on the regular,
Yeah,
although hang gliding, I don't it's very different than flying airplanes, especially when you're teaching, because you're
it's totally different.
yeah,
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 but it's still flying.
still
So
flying.
like some days are tough, and then some days, we have these really good days, and I'm like very reminded why I'm stay-at-home dad. And like I say stay-at-home dad, but like I'm doing every day is super different, which I kind of like. Like that keeps it interesting, but like there's always stuff going on and things to do. And like I'm busier now than I was when I was working. I was get up and go to the flight school, and like I was more tired because I was pouring myself into the students, and like
Uh,
I don't know how to do anything halfway, but
yeah.
I'm just so
So
busy
you're
now.
spending
But
all your
I feel like
emotional
I'm
energy.
yeah,
You're spending all your emotional energy towards the students, and then
right,
you got none left for your family when you come
right,
home.
right.
Tough.
Like that felt really wrong. And it was like for what? So now like I'm busy and I'm doing stuff, but I feel like it's towards my values, like things that are really important to me, and that it's making, I see like my wife and the kids and my own life, and like the effort that I put in, I feel like is making our lives better instead of
That's awesome.
making other people's lives better. But
Yeah,
then, I still have this urge to like teach and help people. So I'm going to try to do
yeah.
it through this kind of thing, because I can do this while the kids are in school and still get all the other stuff done, hopefully.
That's
Although
awesome.
again, I don't know how to do anything halfway. So like I may be going a little overboard on this project, but
Dude,
I'm
I
I have the
identify myself
enthusiasm. I'm gonna
also.
run with it and see what happens.
Yeah,
Hopefully people dig
that's
it.
great.
I'm probably, just to warn you, I'll probably cut this down
Of
a little
course.
bit because I don't know if people are gonna watch the whole thing. Although there was so much good info here. Like,
Road all the way, man. I'm just, I'm just happy to get to talk to you again, man. It's good to see you
it
again,
is
bro.
great to see you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Cory. Like,
Yeah, man. If you want to do
truly, I'm touched that you took the time to do this. That like, and you were
of
so
course.
like you didn't even hem and haw about it. You're like, yeah, I'd love to. And it's like, man, I appreciate that. I don't
Of
know how to say
course.
it, but
Well, man, I mean, I don't know. I felt so supported by the hang gliding community and by, everybody uh, following my journey and being very supportive. And, I purposely didn't post much about it because, I'm wary of
yeah,
social media mixed with work, kind of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
But like, it's meant a lot to me. And I don't know, to me, just to see that somebody else, just to see that something else is possible, can open up a whole world in your head.
yeah,
Like just for Terry to take me aside and say, "Hey, this is a possibility. Did you know this was a possibility?" Like I'm forever grateful to him because I did not know and I never would have known.
right.
So if
Because it
somebody,
seems so like big and far away. Like it's
yeah,
like,
exactly.
how do you even get there? But
How do you get there?
it's
I mean,
very
people like me
approachable.
don't do that. I don't know. I
Right,
don't have any aviators in my family. Nothing. It's like,
right.
well, and half uncle I found it. We found out I have a half uncle. My grandpa was promiscuous, I guess, but
Oh,
he's a pilot apparently. But I didn't know him for until I was already a flight instructor.
oh wow.
But like, there's no aviation in my family, and I mean, so I just wasn't on my radar at all.
Right.
So yeah, if somebody can watch this and learn a little bit about it, get encouraged, and
Yeah.
realize that this is a possibility. It might not go the way it went for me or the way it went for you. But there's power in taking control of your own life and deciding like I want to do. This is the course I'm on now.
Right.
And I've chosen it,
Right.
and I reserve the right to change my mind.
Right.
But like there's power in that instead of somebody else telling you you're on this course now and the next you have to do that. It's like
Right.
I think it's really cool. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what you do with this, man. It's
Well,
cool.
we'll see what happens. I'm like a dog chasing cars right now. Like I don't know what I would do if I caught one. So I'm gonna put it out there. Like, just you put it out in the universe and hopefully people find usefulness or entertainment or I don't even know. But we'll
Yeah,
see. We'll see what happens.
exciting.
It's like the opposite of aerobatics. So like you always want to know how it's gonna end before you do it. And this is like,
Oh, right.
just send it and see what happens.
The opposite of aerobatics. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Love
Well,
it.
I'm gonna let you go, but thank you, Cory. Like
Yeah, dude.
truly, thank you.
Yeah, man. No problem, dude. Reach out anytime.